All right, this is your guided practice and independent practice on comparing linear functions. Okay, so for each of these, you're given two linear functions. Remember, linear functions can be an equation, it can be a graph, it can be a verbal description, or it can be a table. Okay, we know how to find the slope and y-intercept of each of these. So we're going to be given two at a time. You're going to find the slope and y-intercept of both of them, and then you're going to compare. Okay. So for the first one, this is what we're using for A, and we're going to write the slope and y-intercept here. Okay. And then this is what we're using for B. We're going to write the slope and y-intercept here. Okay. So for A, it's pretty easy with the equation y equals 4x plus 2. I know that 4 is my slope because it's next to my x. And I know that 2 is my y-intercept. For the graph, it's a little trickier. You have to figure out your slope by doing rise over run. And then your y-intercept is where the graph crosses the y-axis. Okay. So to find my slope here are my 2 points. I go down 2, so that would be a -2, and then over to the right 2, which would be a +2, so that's -1. And then it crosses my y-axis at 0. Okay, so now I'm going to compare these numbers. If I look at the two slopes, the sentence says the slope of A was blank compared to the slope of B, and I'm going to fill it in with smaller, larger, or the same. So the slope of A, 4, was larger than the slope of B, -1, because 4 is larger than -1. The second question has you compare the y-intercept, so it says the y-intercept of A was, again, larger than the y-intercept of B, because 2 is greater than 0. Okay, so that's what we're going to do here. All right, number 2, we have a verbal description. So we're going to figure out that slope and y-intercept and put it here. And then for B, we have a table. So we're going to put the slope and y-intercept here. Okay, it says my pool holds 100 gallons of water and drains 3 gallons each minute. Okay, my keyword each is referring to the number 3. So I know that's going to be my slope. And since it's draining water, I know it's going to be a -3. It started out with 100 gallons of water, so that's going to be my y-intercept. For the table, you're going to have to find your change in y divided by your change in x. So 150 to 100 to 50 is -50. On the other side, -2 to 0 to 2 is +2. So my slope here is going to be -50 divided by 2, which I know is -25. My y-intercept is the number across from x equals 0, which is 100. So when I compare my slopes, I have to be careful here because the sentence says the slope of B, so I'm looking at -25, was smaller compared to the slope of A, because if you think of a number line, -25 is technically smaller than -3 because it's further to the left. Then it said the y-intercept of B was, I look at my y-intercepts, they're the same, so the same. Okay. All right, number 3. I have a graph for A So again, I'm going to have to find my slope. Notice that my numbers on the y-axis are going up and down by 1 here. So that means up and down, I'm going to count by 1s. But if you notice side to side, they're going up by 2, so I'm going to have to count by 2s when I'm doing the run. Okay, so if I pick these 2 points, I go up 1, and then I go over 1 box, but remember that counts as 2 because I'm counting by 2 on the side to side run. So that's going to be over 2, so my slope is 1/2. And then my y-intercept is 2 because it's crossing the y-axis at 2. For B, it's giving me a table. So I need to figure out my changes. My y values are going up by 10. My x values are going up by 5. So I have 10 divided by 5, which is 2. And then I don't have a 0 in my x column to find my y-intercept, so I'm going to have to figure out where 0 would go. If I follow the pattern backwards, I have 15, 10, 5, 0 would come next because I'm counting backwards by 5s. And then on the y side, I have 60, 50, 40, 30 because I'm counting back by 10. So across from 0 would be 30. So now I can compare. It says the slope of A, 1/2, was blank compared to the slope of B, which is 2. 1/2 is smaller than 2. Then when I compare my y-intercept, the y-intercept of A, 2, was smaller compared to the y-intercept of B because 2 is smaller than 30. For number 4, A is the equation. So I know my slope is going to be 7 and my y-intercept is 30. B is a verbal description. It says Ted has $95 in his bank account. Each week he deposits $30. Each is my slope keyword, and it's referring to 30. So that's my slope. And then 95 is what he starts with, so that's my y-intercept. So now I can fill out the sentences. The slope of A was blank compared to the slope of B. The slope of A was smaller because 7 is smaller than 30. And then the y-intercept of A was blank compared to the y-intercept of B. Again, it's smaller because 30 is smaller than 95. All right, number 5. I have a table for A, so to find my slope, I need to find my changes. My y values are going up by 2. My x values are going up by 4. So my slope is going to be 2 over 4, which reduces to 1/2. And then for my y-intercept, I have to look for what's across from x equals 0, but I don't have 0, so I'm going to have to follow the pattern backwards. So I have 12, 8, 4, 0, 18, 16, 14, 12. So across from 0 would be 12 on the table if it went back that far. B, it just gives me an equation. My slope is 1/2 because that's the number attached to x. And then 14 is my y-intercept. Okay, be careful here again with the sentences because it's starting with B. So the slope of B, 1/2, was blank compared to the slope of A. Those are the same because they're both 1/2. The y-intercept of B was blank compared to the y-intercept of A. 14 is larger than 12. So go ahead and try 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10 on your own. So pause the video, and then once you're done, you can play the video again, and it'll show you the correct answers.